Directs Bobby and Priscilla Harris.
Y'all having a good time today? You learning something? Having fun? All right, fantastic. Let me ask you a question. What price is too great for the privilege of owning yourself? Hello? You with me? Good stuff. Some people make money, other people make excuses. Hello? This business is a life changer, one way or another. How many people are intelligent? The rest of you are dummies. How many people are intelligent people? You figured out the business works, right? Figured out people in BWW know how to work it, right? What's holding you back? Figuring out that you can do it. Does that make sense? Priscilla and I have been married for 45 years last month. And it's been a blessed life with her, and it's going to be better and better every day, which tells you a couple of things. I don't know how sharp she was, but I was very intelligent, right? And we have a wonderful life. I want to share a couple of things with you here today. The great thing about this business is a lot of things, but you know, as you look at what they shared today in the area of Nutrilite and nutrition and health and weight management, all that type of stuff, the problem we have sometimes is that people get distracted function to function, you know. And last function, I think we talked about, we had an artistry panel, and we had a excess thing, and we had a ribbon thing, you know, and that's because we have all this stuff. Does that make sense? So let me give you a couple of tips on a couple of things, then we'll talk about the category that we're supposed to be talking about. But one thing is, I tell my son this all the time, three things that I realized I needed to do in this business, and they all revolved around one thing, and that was showing the plan. Hello? And you show the plan so that you can find somebody just like you who wants to show the plan. Does that make sense? You show the plan so you can fall into a commercial contract of some type, maybe. Because if you're out there trying to go after a commercial contract, you've got all kinds of competition who are out there as a profession doing that. Does that make sense? And you'll more than likely just find somebody who knows somebody who can lead you into a commercial contract. The third reason you do it is to find somebody who is really into weight management, or really gets into artistry, or really gets into excess, or really gets into ribbon, all right? And they may or may not build a big business, but that's what they're into, and they can make a lot of money. We have people in our group that make a full-time income in artistry. Does that make sense? And so that's what you're looking for. But what if you're really, what's the first thing I asked you? What price is too great for the privilege of owning yourself? Does that make sense? You know, how many people want to be free? How many people need to be free? Big difference between wants and needs, isn't there? You never get what you want, but you always get what you need. Because if you need it, it never leaves your mind. If it leaves your mind, you didn't need it. You just wanted it. Does that make sense? And so it's a matter of priorities, isn't it? That's what it is. It's a matter of priorities. You had great talks this weekend. You're going to have more tonight and tomorrow. And we're going to just try to give you a couple of bullet points on what we thought, all right, as we were moving our way to where we started to getting free. Does that make sense? Please check upline if you hear anything different. We were broke when we got in. We were in debt when we got in. All right? So there wasn't any way to build this business when we were out of debt, when we were already in debt, unless we continued to stay in debt. Does that make sense? If we waited to get out of debt, we never got out of debt, so we never built. Does this make any sense? You know, if the cost of this weekend kept people from coming this weekend, because they didn't have the money to come unless they put it on a credit card or whatever. That's like the doctor telling you what you needed to cure yourself and you not doing it. Does that make sense? There may be times in your business, our subject is delayed gratification. Well, we were already delaying gratification. We didn't even know what gratification was. You know? When Priscilla and I got married, Priscilla and I married when she was 19, it was like 3 years ago, all right? And I was 21, okay? We didn't have any money, all right? We were broke. I remember our first house was an 8x40 trailer. 8x40, 8 feet. You know, you could hardly lie down. Terry O'Shea couldn't have lied down. There's no way that would have happened, And I told her, I said, honey, I'm going to be a PE teacher and a coach, And I promise you we'll never have any money. And she said, oh, I know, honey, but I love you so much, And so for 15, 16 years, I was fulfilling that promise of always being broke. But you know what? We loved each other, and all of a sudden, we saw something like you did that could possibly change your life. And we started coming to these functions. We started listening to people, and our minds started to grow. And we know we did more than anything else. I'm going to let Priscilla say something in here in a minute. We bought into the information. We didn't question the information. We didn't go home and analyze it. Does that make sense? We bought into, because the proof was there. Amway was working. BWW was working. You with me? The worst thing a person could do was give misinformation to people because it would affect their income. Does that make sense? So we bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. Doesn't mean we started to do everything, but we didn't discount anything. Does that make sense? And I think the continuity of that, what's the key word? Continuity of that is a key thing. You with me? So our subject is delayed gratification. We've got about 10 or 12 minutes to talk to you about it. You've heard a little bit about it. We're just going to give you a couple of bullet points here to maybe reinforce some things. But y'all remember last year, Super Bowl? Who won the Super Bowl last year? New Orleans Saints, right? That was the perfect example of delayed gratification. Terry O'Shea said to me after Rocky's talk last night about, we got to get Rocky to drop the Redskins and pick up the Steelers as a team. And the first thing I said to Terry, I said, you got season tickets? He said, not yet. I said, well, okay, but you got to remember, Rocky grew up as a Redskin fan. He's been suffering like me for years. It's in the suffering that the victory is sweeter. You got to suffer symptoms. Remember, the sweetest fruit is on the longest branch, the furthest from the trunk. Man cannot discover new oceans without the courage to lose sight of the shore. You can't steal second with your foot on first. Does that make sense? And the risk you take in this is just a risk of time, money, and change. Delay in some of those things. Let Priscilla say a few words on that.
Thank you. Our topic is delayed gratification, and I just want to point out one key issue that is a core success principle. Gals, you can argue with it until you're blue in the face. You're still going to have to delay some things to get what you really want. And guys, same thing with you. But think about this. Rich and Helen DeVos, Jay and Betty Van Andel, Bill and Peggy Britt, Dexter and Bertie Yeager, they delayed their gratification for years and years and years. Had they not believed in this one success principle, none of you would be sitting here. All over this world, it wouldn't be the same. So, it's just, you just got to buy into it. And I bought into it. I was already broke, as Bobby said. I didn't care. I made a game of it because I wanted this business, and I saw my man, who was so dedicated as a coach, and was so unselfish and giving to boys and guys to help them. He wanted to give back because he was given so much when he was a young man, and athletics was his life. But when I saw him have a dream about helping his own family, Bobby and Billy, our little boys, because he changed when he had those children. And I know all of you have children. Some of you do, some of you don't. But you have people in your downline who have children. And it did change for us. So we bought into it. And for 7 years, I didn't buy a new dress. I didn't buy anything unless it came from the Amway business. Food my mother would bring over. I was so fanatical in this one core principle, and I think it's one of the key reasons we have what we have today. And And honestly, we go to McDonald's. We went to McDonald's coming down here, and Bob said, "What do you want?" I said, "I don't have any idea. I've only been in McDonald's like 5 times in my life because I don't buy fast food to this day. I could buy half a McDonald's if I wanted to." Because I watched every single cent that we spent. I wrote it down. All of us wrote down every single cent that we spent because we didn't want any money going out that wasn't going into our Amway business. And a lot of you starve your baby, which is your business. Invest in your business. Don't be afraid to give. Don't be afraid to have samples. Don't be afraid, gals, to find out what your husband wants. Be careful what you ask for. Because men are so great, they will die trying to get their wife or the person they love what they want. They will even quit the business and get a promotion and get what she wants, and then she's unhappy. Well, gals, go look in the mirror. It's your fault. It's not his. I just want to tell you one thing, and the reason you can be so excited about this one principle is enthusiasm on fire is always better than intelligence on ice. We saw a lot of people on our team that could afford things that we couldn't afford. We passed them all. And in the last 6 months of 2010, we had more blessings than most people have in a lifetime. Build your business, but really take this principle to heart. It works.
Brand new people, raise your hand. First function. Good. You made a great investment in your future. It's just the beginning. You know, if you had a conventional business, you'd already be $200,000 to $1 million in debt. Does that make sense? It'd take you program yourself for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years to get out of debt to make a profit. All right, you didn't have to invest that. You invested whatever you did to get here, time and money or whatever, but that's just the beginning. You cannot build this business by not putting things back into the business. All right, new people, make that as a solid foundational principle. All right, prioritize what you want. All right, and then make sure that you're moving towards what you really want, what you really need. Does that make sense? People that have been in the business for a while, all right? Maybe you've had your business go up and your business come down, all right? It fluctuates, all right? It fluctuates. What you cannot afford to fluctuate is your attitude towards your dream. That should not fluctuate. You can always restart, all right? And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do is restart. But is your dream still there, or are you in the settle for mentality? Does that make sense? The greatest stories are those who've been up and come down. Nobody can really relate to the person that gets in and 2 years later they're, "Oh yeah, man, you know, this was really hard. We got in and we sponsored 19,000 people, you know," and all you want to do is go, "Ah!" Does it make sense? Your story is going to be the greatest story, you know? Those of you that don't have a lot of resources, you think Nadia and Valerio had resources? They didn't have any resources, they had a dream. You know, Rick and Tony Fairchild, E3s in the Air Force. E3s. Hello, does this make sense? Stop looking at your situation as being the one that's going to keep you back and look at the reason that it needs to be moving you forward. Does that make sense? We all have a choice, folks. We all have a choice. I don't want to hear your lottie-dottie poor time story. I tried it. That's a good reason to get in, is to try it. You need to decide to do it to make it work. Does that make sense? And each one in your own time. But flush the stories, flush the negative, flush the, you know, look at your money. Where's your money going? To your future or to your entertainment? Where's your time going? To your future or to your pleasure? Where's the change in you going? Are you too stubborn to change your hair? Are you too stubborn to get your teeth fixed? Are you too stubborn to change the way you talk or walk? Folks, I changed. I'm continuing to change. Why? Because I need to get better. Does that make sense? I'm not the finished product. Are you the finished product? Absolutely not. That's where delayed gratification comes, is in the money, the time, and the change. you know? And as you do that, and you start looking in the mirror, and you'll start realizing more and more and more, all right, that it's worth it, all right? Because you'll start making eye contact with yourself in the mirror, and you'll shake your head, you know? And it won't matter what anybody else thinks or what anybody else says, you know? You'll start getting little victories, okay, that'll keep adding to the finished product, all right? Some of your marriages will get better. Your kids will get better. Everything will grow, all right? But the victory won't happen totally until you're able to get up and walk across the stage and tell your story. Does that make sense? I've had people come in our business who got their spiritual life together, got their marriage life together, learned how to handle their finances better, and they quit. What are they really saying? I got mine, but I'm not going to give it to anybody else. Is that the right thing to do? No, it's not. You know, there's families out there that only you are going to be able to touch. You alone are going to be able to touch. You don't know who they are. Wouldn't it be great if they had a sign on their forehead? It's me! You know? People say, well, how do you pick people in the business? You don't pick them, you find them. You know? Through the process. And you just get blessed by a Mark and Liz Crockett. You know? You get blessed by a Sherry Tucker. You get blessed by a Billy Harris who just happened to be in your family. I have another son, too, who's not in the business. We love him just as much, but he didn't see the vision yet that Billy did. That was a blessing. They both had the same opportunity. Maybe he will later, maybe he won't. You know? But I know lives cannot be touched by anything else in this world greater than this business from a standpoint of where you start and where you can go. You don't have to learn how to sing. You know, you don't have to learn how to shoot a basketball. You know, all you got to do is give it away. Just give it away. Just give it away. You know, think about what you saw the first night you saw the plan and what thought process you went through. Does this make sense? And why you chose to take the next step. Why you got excited. What glimmer of hope came into your life. And never lose sight of that. I don't care how long you've been in. I don't care how many people you showed it to. Statistics are for losers. The thing that separates people that make it and don't make it in this business is a little word called faith. You know, faith is what you see when there's no evidence of it being there. It doesn't take faith to see it if it's there. It takes faith to see it when it's not there. Does that make sense? How can you have faith in something that you've never seen and not have faith in something you have seen? Evidence is there. Okay? So I hope it made some sense, guys. We love you. We just pray that you're going to make it happen for your future and your family, all right? Because we need you to be on this stage to give more credibility to what these people here have already done. God bless you. We'll talk to you later.